Bonjour, je m'appelle Alexandre Jollien. Aujourd'hui, je suis philosophe.
Hello, I'm Alexandre Jollien. Nowadays, I am a philosopher and writer. I'm also a father. My wife and I have two children, Victorine and Augustin.
C'est aussi mon premier voyage en Asie et je suis très
This is my first trip to Asia, and I am very pleased to be here. Very touched to discover another culture, another poverty, for the poverty I find here is quite different from the one I thought I had seen in other places, and I am full of curiosity to see this country.
Avoir vu ailleurs et je suis très curieux de découvrir ce pays.
Welcome to Nepal. And this is Tika.
Thank you. C'est vrai qu'on voit souvent à la télé.
It is true that one often sees pictures of poverty on TV, but to see with one's own eyes how far-reaching its effects are makes one realize what a scandal it is that such terrible conditions can be tolerated for anyone, for these little children.
Pour des enfants.
I have read many of the Stoics, particularly Seneca, who says that happiness should not depend on outer conditions, that it should be purely an inner state, needed to be cultivated internally. In a certain way, this is true, but here one realizes that if a person is hungry, it's hard to feel happy. In fact, it's virtually impossible. And I think it is a concept of the privileged few to state that happiness is independent of exterior circumstances. What I have seen here, even in the slums, is joy. And this comforted me as laying more importance on joy than on the idea of happiness. Happiness is perhaps unattainable. It shook me to hear a former prostitute say, "I shall never be happy whilst trafficking goes on." And I felt she was expressing a profoundly deep sentiment. This means one can never be completely happy as long as terrible conditions like poverty exist. But joy, in contrast, is a driving force which makes it possible to brave these issues. I myself think happiness is seeing the end of the road. Here, the journey seems endless because there is still so much to do. But the traveler can carry joy with him to give him strength to go on.
When I heard that Alexandre was coming to Nepal, I thought that it would be wonderful for him to meet children, adults and young people with disabilities, for them to interact. And this dream came true. And thanks to his warm and simple approach, people immediately felt comfortable and became best friends.
Yes, but the welcome is really something special. I appreciate the fact that they do not reduce a person to his disability. And the center of a disabled person's life is not his handicap, but life itself. Even if it is not always easy, it comforts me to hear this.
Association of the Blind.
Something unbelievable for young people here is that they meet someone who's been in a very difficult situation and who's done things way beyond anyone would expect. Here they are mostly considered inferior and incapable. From their childhood they hear things like, you cannot do this, you cannot do that, you'll never be a nurse or a writer or a philosopher. And they meet someone who's done all of this and more. So it gives them a lot of hope.
However, there are different degrees of disability, and I think that to be born disabled in Nepal is perhaps an additional obstacle to be overcome. It makes a deep impression to see this foot. I mean, it's a tragedy, the thought that someone has no foot, but at the same time, there's hope. And it's a little bit an image of what this center is all about. It starts with a tragedy, but thanks to solidarity, the tragedy can find an end.
On peut sortir de cette tragédie. Canaille, dès qu'on a des souvenirs.
I myself have reached a phase in my life where I do not want to talk anymore about fighting or struggles, as I find it destructive to fix one's life on fighting and struggling. But this also makes me think that there are various stages in life, and if I had not gone through the one of fight and struggle, I would not be here to talk about it now. And I miss not being able to show young people simply that each stage in life has its own importance. And if there is to be an inevitable fight for life, if you do not realize that, you cannot come through it.
Une lutte de la vie, pour la vie, qui est obligatoire. Si on n'a pas ça, on ne s'en sort pas. Arrivé au terme de ce voyage, je suis content de rentrer en Suisse.
Having arrived at the end of this trip, I am happy to go home to Switzerland to bear witness about what I have discovered. First of all, the humanity of the staff of Terre des Hommes made a great impression on me. I know there are ways of giving aid which can be very arrogant and far removed from the reality of the recipients. But here, I saw foreigners and locals who looked after other people, or rather, who accompanied them, without showing pity, but with true commitment. And that has allowed me to revise what commitment really should be. So, if I can spread this idea in Switzerland so that the Nepalese we met can be helped, I shall be content.
Obtenir quelque aide, je serai content. Ça me rappelle.
That reminds me of a story. There were starfish on a beach, dying, thousands of them. A man passed by and tried to put one starfish back into the water. Someone else said, "That's pathetic. There are thousands of starfish dying. You can't change anything." But the man replied, "For this starfish, it changes everything."